So how's everybody doing? Just gonna make sure that it's properly all set up and it's all loaded. Yay, we're streaming live. So excited to be here with you all and to present to you Wil, our belief clearing expert. I have to remember that one. It's the first time I've heard this term. And Wil is gonna tell us all about it. Wil, I'll give the floor to you.
Okay, great. Sorry for a little bit of background noise. It just started, of course, as soon as we hit record, someone decided to make a big loud noise. Yeah, so belief clearing expert, I'll start with that one because it might be new for people. I do have a background as a life coach. I have a background training in lots of different modalities that would be called holistic or energy work, Reiki and things like that. And I loved all of it. It was all a lot of fun, but I didn't notice that it actually resulted in a shift in my life, a shift in my bank account, a shift in my ability to stop procrastinating and stop doubting myself and beating myself up. You know, the inner critic didn't seem to get more quiet the more life coaching I did. And I did a lot of life coaching and I trained with some of the best. I spent thousands of dollars and thousands of hours in personal development seminars, and they all helped. It all helped me move my life forward. But in the end, sitting by myself at home, trying to get my business going, trying to get things off the ground, I would still beat myself up and feel like a loser and feel like an idiot and feel like the biggest waste of space on the planet until I started doing this work. So that's my brief explanation of belief clearing expert, and then we can get into more. So should I start with, I guess, my background a little bit, or maybe our title for today, or where would you like me to jump in, Alexandra?
I was on mute, sorry. Just a little bit about your background, I think, because it is fascinating and how you work with people, and then we'll talk about the summit related stuff.
Okay, great. Yeah, so for everyone here, you know, our title of Summit Struggles, Clearing Self-Doubt. I like to always share my story in the context of the talk that I'm giving or the live that we're doing. So I was a performer for my first life. I was an actor. I grew up in theater. I grew up on the stage from the age of 8 until 22 when I left the professional theater program that I joined in Vancouver in Canada. So I'm in Canada. And that was amazing, but it was also terrible because I was so sensitive to everyone else and everything, all of their thoughts and opinions. And then later I learned their energies and their beliefs. So the self-doubts, you know, we think of the quintessential actor or actress who is amazing and they're charismatic and they're in the flow and they're so successful. But then you get them alone in a room and you ask them how are they doing, and they crumble and they're just so full of doubt and they're so full of fears. You know, what do people think of me? And that was me to a T. That was me exactly. And then I came to owning my own business. I joined a direct sales company. I learned about selling and I learned about marketing. And I also learned that I sucked at both of them. I learned that I sucked at holding myself accountable and actually being productive in the day. So that led me on a search for personal development. And that's when I trained as a life coach. But still something was kind of missing in all of that. And I kept being drawn to more energy work and energy healing and spiritual modalities. And what I noticed with spiritual modalities and coaching is that they were these two extremes, that the spiritual work was way too out there and way too woo-woo and really general. And, you know, I love the chakras, but talking about the chakras for 5 hours makes anyone go a little bit crazy. And then on the other side, there was life coaching and, you know, high productivity planners and this kind of thing. And that was also missing something too, because it was so specific that, you know, they would say things like, well, if you follow the system works every single time. And then I'm sitting there saying, I did your entire system to the letter and it didn't work. And they say, well, then there's something you didn't do properly in the system. And I had some people that I would take them through and I'd say, no, look, I did it. And they go, oh, well, that's never happened before. It must be an anomaly. So that's when I found belief clearing and specific belief clearing and the modality that I practice. And this is what I do with my clients. It is that balance between, I get very specific on what is the belief that you have that is creating the reality that you're experiencing. So for me, I work with the here and now. I don't really spend much time on past lives and all that stuff. It's all great, but I focus on the here and now. So if your summit, for example, is not going the way that you want it to, you have a belief about that. If people aren't signing up, if you can't get the right guest speakers, if you're not attracting the right crowd, you have a belief about it. And I know from having run my own very first summit last month that very clearly I had some beliefs. And when I shifted those, different people started showing up. So that's the kind of the short version of my story. There's lots of different little stories I could share within that, but that's the overarching of how I found this modality and why I love it so much and why this is how I spend all of my days.
Wow. So I like that you actually combine the two, because myself, I'm also, um, I like to combine different ways. I don't think that there's one solution that fits all.
Mm-hmm.
And that I find that everybody's life, everybody's business, everybody's path is very individual. And you have to fine tune things to find the right solution for that person.
Mm.
So I like that you actually find this approach of merging the different thinkings and finding your own unique, path, your own unique teaching, if I may call it that. Not sure.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that I love about it too, is that it's very freeing because I don't have to have all the answers anymore. So I used to practice, for example, life coaching. And in most schools of life coaching, they say this will work for everyone under every circumstance. And then same with energy work. Reiki, for example, they will say this works for everyone under every circumstance. It's always beneficial. And so they're talking in these big, broad, general terms. And I find that for me very unhelpful, especially because we're all so different. We're all so unique. So I love that now I get to say, no, what I do works for a specific group of people at a specific income bracket, at a specific stage of life, at a specific stage of business. It can help everybody. Sure, like what I do has helped hundreds of people all over the world. I've worked with over 400 people across 26 countries because of this beautiful online world that we get to have. And it helped everybody. Everyone had a great experience and things improved in their lives. But working with women entrepreneurs at a certain stage of their business that are dealing with imposter complex and procrastination, they have like their life and their business explodes because what I do and the way that I do it and the words that I use and the whatever works really well for them. So that's part of why I love this path, because it relieves me of the responsibility of saving the world. Like I just get to work with my ideal clients, have an incredible business that I love and work with people that I love and know that everyone else is taken care of and they're all going to be okay, which that took me 20 years of my life to get to that realization.
Well, you know what? No path is easy, and we never know our ideal clients straight away. For most business owners, it's a journey. It's not that you wake up one day and say, I'm going to work for this group of people. Actually, very often it changes, it shifts, and it takes a while to really find that niche. And it's wonderful that you've niched down, because that's really the most important thing to have, is really to have your niche and focus on that. So let's talk a little bit about your niche and the imposter syndrome that a lot of entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs suffer, also in related to the summit. So let's just maybe go back to the basic. What is actually an imposter syndrome? You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. I had to cough, so I muted myself. So even being an imposter complex, I call myself a connoisseur rather than an expert. I think it takes probably 10 years to really develop an expertise. I'm only about 3 years in. So I wouldn't, maybe not expert, but connoisseur. And even having chosen this as my area of focus, I just learned, was it 2 weeks ago, I listened to a new podcast and I got educated about, it's not imposter syndrome, it's imposter complex. And she explained that a syndrome is a medical condition that requires medical attention and possibly medication, whereas a complex is a mental construct that we are empowered to deal with as non-doctor people, non-medical people. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Not only that I got to learn something new, but also that even as you redefine the term, it becomes a more solvable problem. Because if it was a syndrome, you're screwed. You need a doctor, you need medication, all of that. But it's not, it's a complex. So when you feel like a fraud, or you feel like an imposter, or you're having those self-doubts, that's kind of, it can be your first benchmark. The first place to get to is, oh, right, this is solvable. It is a complex, not a syndrome. It's not a life sentence. I know it feels like it is right now because I'm frozen, dealing with fear. I can't make that Facebook post. I can't, reach for the kind of summit host that I'd really love to have because they're better than me, or they've got a bigger following than me, or they've got a whatever more than me. And so, keeping specific to summits, that's where it really shows up. When you create a vision for your summit or your business that's bigger than you and bigger than who you've been, it's natural for your imposter complex or self-doubt to kick in because it's healthy. It means you're not a crazy psychopath. It means you're a real person. So actually, thank yourself first and thank that part of your brain that clicks in to say, yeah, thank you for being a real person. Thank you for having doubts. Now that we've looked and seen what that is that accurate? Is it true? Is it real? You can start the question process. Where I like to go instead, the questioning process is powerful, but where I like to go instead is, what's the belief that's causing that? And so I've identified 8 pillars, I call them pillars, to this whole construct, this whole thing that is imposter complex. There's procrastination, there is imposter complex is one of the 8 pillars. There is people pleasing and overgiving. When you make your summit free and you put on 10 fantastic speakers who each do a masterclass worth of work, and it's a free summit, that I don't know. I would guess that unless there's a very clear strategy coming afterwards of a really robust email nurture sequence and a really robust lead capture mechanism, and you've got a clear, small offer to big, like if that's fully mapped out and you've already done that before, great. But if you're just doing it free because you're afraid that you won't get enough bums in seats if you charge for it, well, that's overgiving, which is part of imposter complex. So there's 8 of these pillars that I go into in depth in my work. And they all come together. It's a little bit like a car. You can't drive a car with just the gas tank. You need the gas tank, and the tires have to be full, and the engine has to be checked out, and you need to make sure that the muffler is working, those kinds of things. So you need all 8. It's not actually complicated. It can seem complicated to have eight steps or 8 pillars, but that's part of my path because I hate it when people oversimplify and say, oh, all you have to do is law of attraction. Just think positive thoughts and it'll all work out. And I say, that's great, but that's oversimplified. That's like telling someone, and cut me off anytime I ramble too much, but that's like telling someone who is depressed and on the couch and stuck on the couch to just get up and get your life together. You can do it. I believe in you. You don't know that person's past. You don't know the potential trauma they've been through. You frankly don't know what they had for breakfast that morning. So to just jump in and tell them to go do it. And it's the same with summits. To tell someone who's stuck in the grips of fear and procrastination and self-doubt, they had this brilliant idea for a summit and the vision of what it's going to be, and then they're not reaching their goals. It's been 3 months. They don't have the numbers they want. They're launching in 3 weeks. Feels like everything's falling apart. And to tell that person, just keep going. You can do it. I believe in you. I feel is very irresponsible, because what if that person speaks to themselves, and inner critic is one of the 8 pillars. What if they speak to themselves in such a horrible way that no matter what you say, they can't even hear you, and it just bounces off and does more damage than good? So that's a kind of a broad overview, and we can dive into any of the pieces of it. But those are some of the philosophies behind the work that I do.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you mentioned self-doubt and the belief. So is it different or is it the same?
Oh, everyone's belief that causes self-doubt, you mean?
Yeah.
It's different. So that's kind of the brilliance in this as a business model for me, because I can talk about the 8 pillars all day long, every day, and I put on workshops on these and low-cost offers. But there's always going to be something specific to each individual. So there's always a reason to work with me personally if you connect with this work and if you really like it. A lot of people just do a workshop and they get what they need, but there are going to be specific beliefs. So some of the big ones would be, if it comes to self-doubt, some of the lies about self-doubt is, I'm just not ready yet. I need another certification. I need another degree. I need another mentor's approval. I need more testimonials. I'm just not ready yet. So that could be a cause of self-doubt. Or another cause of self-doubt could be, well, I've done this all before and it didn't work. That was my resume for most of my life. I've done this before, it didn't work, or it doesn't matter what I do, it still won't work. So, obviously, we can see how that would lead to self-doubt. Or another huge cause of self-doubt for any of the very emotional or sensitive people in the crowd, like myself, is when you pick up on other people's stories or beliefs or well, can I swear on this one? Is this a swearing group?
You can a little bit.
A little bit. Okay. So I'll just say crap. We pick up on other people's energetic crap and it gets on us. And then we think, oh, I have self-doubt. Well, I find with most of my clients, a lot of their self-doubt doesn't even belong to them. They just spoke to someone who's putting on a bigger summit than they are, for example. And then okay, we're going down a whole other place, but I love this concept. So we don't actually know how successful people are. You don't actually know how successful I am. You can judge by the fact that I'm wearing a sweater instead of a dress shirt. You could guess that maybe my background, because I'm doing a virtual background, maybe I live in poverty and I'm not actually successful at all. And that's cool, I don't care. Or you can look at someone in the nice dress shirt with a really great background. You can say, oh, they're successful. And they're selling me this strategy, so they must be successful. They're putting on this summit with 20 big speakers, and every speaker has to have an email list of 5,000 people, et cetera, et cetera. And you can have the judgment that they're successful. But what if that person isn't? What if they're dealing with their own imposter complex and they're putting on this big thing to try to puff themselves up to be who they want to be, but they're not actually there yet? So you speak to this person who you think is really successful. And then later you find yourself caught up in a bunch of self-doubt and procrastination, and you feel like a fraud. And how could you ever think that your little bitty 5-speaker summit, that's charging $10 a person, how could you ever think that was a great idea? You've got to level up. You got to start charging high ticket. You got to do this. Anytime you go down that spiral of like, oh, I should have, that's not you. That's someone else's self-doubts, and you got close to them and you got some of their icky on you, and now you think that you have self-doubt, but you don't. It's actually someone else's. So I know that's a bit of a crazy idea, but I find that's another big cause of self-doubt.
But actually, I love what you're saying, because that's so true. And I see it a lot as well with the summit hosts, that you look at the maybe influencers or those people that are saying, oh, I've made 20,000 from the summit. But actually what they're not saying that is they didn't make from the summit itself, but actually had some upsells that they did afterwards within the nurture system. That, they were they sell an online course or program that was, I don't know, $1,000 each. And then, it's fine. You can do the math. It's quickly to get to the 10,000. So actually, and a lot of the times with the online world is, unfortunately, is not always as authentic, right? As you were mentioning now, we don't know. And people say, oh, we've had this amazing summit. But actually, unless you're in it, unless you know in the engagement of the groups, unless you know what exactly the sign-up rates are, you never know for sure how successful it was. And actually, I find it's fine also to start small. If you're just starting out, don't look at the huge numbers. Maybe your goal is just to have 500 people in your email list for now, and that's absolutely fine. And you can take one step at a time and grow with each event and make it bigger. And the more confident you feel, the better it becomes as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is aligned with your
100%
as well.
100%. And when you and I were prepping for this talk, and I said, can I send you some questions beforehand? And there's a question that I found that I loved. So I'll just ask myself the question right now because it's so perfectly timed. Which is, And I was looking up some favorite questions for podcasts and that kind of thing, just to get the brainstorming going. And the question was something like, what's an amazing thing that you've learned? What was life like before, and what is life like after? So the amazing thing that I've learned that I hope I can impart to some people that are listening to this live or on the replay is what I call energetic alignment. And so energetic alignment is when you are being you, all of you, and you don't you don't care what anyone else says or does. You're just going to do you and be you. And that's exactly what you were just talking about, giving yourself the permission to start small. And there's actually a lot of responsibility in starting small, in that, if you don't actually know that you can put on a fantastic summit and you go and promise 10 high-level speakers that there are going to be tickets sold and money made, and you don't know, and then you flomp it all, guess how much harder it's going to be to pull yourself back up from that. Now, I'm not saying to not have big goals, and I'm not saying, be realistic. I'm just saying be in energetic alignment. So I'll give one or two quick story examples. So when I first started selling packages in my practice, it was about 2 years ago, year and a half, 2 years ago. And I never wanted to do packages because I'd done them years before. And it worked well enough, but no one ever stuck with the packages because it required at the time a lot of re-inspiring. It was like every coaching conversation was a new sales conversation to like keep going with the process. And it was exhausting. Didn't want to do it. A lot of that had to do with my niche wasn't clear enough. And so I wasn't attracting the right people. So later, as an energy worker, as a belief clearing expert, I was just doing 1 session or 3 session bundles, 4 session bundles. And it was going really well. People got great results. They referred me. They would share with their friends. So I was growing quite well. I had no problem with not doing packages. But I decided, no, I'd like to do some packages. So I made up a 3-month package for $1,500, and I was going to go for it. Now, I shared that with my friend and colleague that I have a weekly conversation with. She and I do belief clearing back and forth for each other. We're best friends, and we know the same modality. So I shared this with her that, hey, I just sold my first $1,500 package. And she went, oh, great. It was for a one month arrangement. And I said, oh, it's 3 months with this bonus and this bonus and this bonus. And she said, oh, what are you doing? You're undervaluing yourself. You're not charging enough. That should be a 1 month or 2 months maximum, and all this kind of stuff. Because she had enrolled in this high-end coaching program that was focused on high ticket sales. So she was borrowing someone else's opinion. And I said, for a moment, I questioned myself and I doubted myself. And I went, oh no, I've got to double that. Oh shoot, I have to double. And then I went, whoa. No. That felt really good when I made the sale. It felt aligned. I didn't feel like I was being passive. I didn't feel aggressive. I felt fully aligned, energetically aligned. I'm going to stick with that. And then I sold 2 more of those packages. And 2 of those clients have been 2 of my best clients ever. And they still work with me to this day in different ways. And that was a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I had the best month of my business career ever. So was I really wrong to undervalue myself at that time? Or was it the perfect next step in my business? I think it was the perfect next step because I came from energetic alignment, what was true for me. And we never regret. Like if you undercharge or like you undershoot your summit, but you do it from energetic alignment, you never regret that. But if you overshoot or overcharge and you're not in energetic alignment, you will regret that. It'll keep you up at night. It will feel out of integrity or whatever your language is for that. So when you're talking about starting small with a summit, if starting small feels in energetic alignment, do it. If going big and swinging for the fences feels in energetic alignment, do it. I'm not here to say start small, start big. What I'm here to say is be in energetic alignment. That's my thought.
Yeah, be true to yourself. Sometimes it's hard to find though, or sometimes it's hard to find that alignment and know actually what feels. I mean, you really have to do some self-awareness work, as I imagine, to get there. And probably those 8 pillars help to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everything that I do, all of my work is all to help my clients be in energetic alignment so that the next time a family dinner comes along, they can be calm and at peace. The next time a big sales conversation comes up, they can be clear about their boundaries and know who they are, that as they're planning the summit and something goes wrong, that they go, oh, look at that, that happened. Now what am I going to do? Everything that I do. So the 8 pillars are just the map. And there's that famous expression, you know, don't make the map the destination. The map is just a map. So the 8 pillars are just, it's just a path. It's the boat to help you get from this island to that island. And then once you get to that island, you probably don't even think about those 8 pillars anymore, which is where a lot of experts come from. They say, oh, you don't need to, your inner critic stuff is unimportant, or boundaries are unimportant, or this is unimportant, or that's unimportant. But that's because they've been on the second island for so bloody long that they forgot what it was like to take the journey. Sorry, that's my another very strong opinion that I have, is that too many experts forget what it was like to be in the valley, you know, to be at that low point. And they forget. And so they say, oh, high ticket is the way to go. You've got to go for your 10K month in your first year of business. Whoa, in your first year of business, you don't even have proof of concept yet. You don't even know that your clients get continuous excellent results. You don't even know that you like your business model. What are you talking about, a 10K month? Like, let's dial it back. You know, who do you want to work with? What problem do you solve? And what's the favorite result that you love seeing show up for your clients? Once you get that dialed in, okay, now maybe let's talk about a 10K month. Yeah, because all of that, and again, all of that leads to self-doubt. If you're going with someone else's beliefs or approach, their stories, then self-doubt is going to kick your ass every day, every day. That's a guarantee.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. So we've just actually received a question from Jennifer.
Sure.
And she wanted actually to know a little bit more to clarify on the 8 pillars. Probably, I guess, Jennifer, you want to know what all of these 8 pillars are, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be doing on Thursday, I'm doing a free webinar on procrastination. So ending procrastination for business owners. And I'll be going more deeply into these 8 pillars, but I can share what they are so that you can have, so that anyone who's left brain, you know, logical left brain, and needs to know all that part of your brain can relax and go, oh, okay, he told me all 8. I know what that feels like because I'm that person too. So the first one is procrastination. And actually, I discovered after about 3 years of looking at this, studying it with my clients, not studying from books, but studying from every single session that I've ever had with every client. I've taken notes. So I have session notes from every single session I've ever done. So then I can look at that as data and go back and say, oh, interesting. Every single woman from North America, usually the United States, usually Southern United States, as well as Holland, interesting, deal with this same thing in the same way. Women from Holland speak about it in the same way as a Southern Baptist woman from North Carolina, because they have a similar sense of imposter complex, but for very different reasons. So this is one of those, that's just a fun little factoid for everyone about why you take notes in sessions with clients if you're a service provider, because it'll give you this kind of data where then maybe 2 or 3 years later, you can now have a map like this, and it's authentic. You didn't just make it up. You didn't just dream it up. You didn't read other people's books and say, oh, this must be the thing. You can actually say, no. From hundreds of client notes, this is what came up in their words, not mine. So first is procrastination. So you started procrastinating, and it led to number 2, overwhelm. There's too much going on. I'm overwhelmed. And now that has led your inner critic, number 3, to kick your ass with some self-doubt thoughts. And then you started developing number 4, imposter complex. Fantastic. Not. And so you started number 5, playing small in order to stay safe. And now you're number 6, not fully owning your expertise, trying to help everyone. And now leading to number 7, you gave into people pleasing and overgiving, thinking that it would help, but it didn't. And then finally, number 8, you developed crappy boundaries, and you realize that you've lost a piece of you somewhere along the way. So those are the eight pillars. And they flow in that way as most people's experience. Like most people, first they notice they're procrastinating, then they start getting overwhelmed, and then their inner critic kicks their butt. Like it doesn't have to go that way, but it does seem to progress very logically for most people that way. And it's also neat, and this is what I'm now developing as my first lead magnet about procrastination specifically, that if you're procrastinating, don't try to just end procrastination. Don't try to, like, that's where most people go. They go to their day planner and they try to plan better and get a better plan and get a coach and all these action-based things. But if your problem's really at number 6 and you don't even have a clear expertise identified, well, yeah, you're procrastinating because you're scared that if you come out with your general offering, it's not going to work because you don't have your expertise identified. Or maybe you're playing small, but maybe you're playing small because of a history of trauma. And any time that you came out and did big or brilliant things, your family either literally hit you or emotionally hit you, or something else happened. Or for me, the trauma was in school. So again, if all we attack is the action part, the procrastination part, and we miss the deeper levels, and then if we don't address the specific beliefs, because for each one, there's a specific belief pattern that holds it in place. And that's what I addressed in the webinar. And there's different ways that you can address those beliefs and release them so that you can actually move forward. And they're not general. In the webinar, I'll do general because I'm not doing hot seat time with people. But in my sessions with people, it's not a general thing. This is, I love EFT tapping, but you can only tap for a YouTube video for so long until you go a little crazy. So I go into specifics of like, what's the exact belief and what are your exact words? So I hope that answers the question. Not in an oversimplified way, but those are the full 8 pillars.
Yeah, I like it. I like that you have it as a map, as a way of how one develops from it. I mean, and it can be applied to how you think about summits, because in the beginning you might have a summit idea, but you procrastinate because you're unsure. As you say, you have those limiting beliefs. And then you think like, oh no, now I have to do it. And now you stress, you're overwhelmed because there's so many tasks that you actually have to complete. And then it goes. So it's kind of the snowball that becomes bigger and bigger. And if you don't tackle it at the beginning, it just becomes harder to unwind all these issues.
Yeah, and for me, for anyone that might be dealing with self-doubt, my life changed dramatically when I stopped being a generalist and I started being a specialist. So my specialty is, and we haven't really talked about how I clear beliefs, but this is a piece of that. So I have this thing. I was kind of born with it, but I developed it as a skill as well, where I can tell when people are lying to themselves. So I can't necessarily watch the news and tell when a politician's lying. That's a different kind of expertise. That's not my thing. My thing is when I'm with clients, I can ask them a question, and when they answer with a yes or a no, little bells or whatever you want to, however you want to think of it, will ding or they won't ding, or the space goes dead or it stays alive. It's a little bit like a bat with sonar in a cave. So I don't necessarily see right away what it is, but as I ask the questions, the sonar pings off the walls and it pings off the objects that are in the way. And I can say, oh, well, it looks like the shape of an elephant. Could you just touch the back? Oh, yeah, no, it's definitely an elephant. That's an elephant in your way. And then we can clear the elephant. So that's a lot about how it works. So when I identified that expertise, that I'm the bullshit detector, and I started having clients say this about me before I said it about myself, they would say, wow, it's like you're a human polygraph. It's like you can tell when I'm lying. Like, it's like you're a bullshit detector. It's like you're a, and so now I start calling myself that I'm the bullshit detector. I'm the no BS belief clearing guy, because that's what my clients get out of working with me. So when I identified that expertise, oh my gosh, imposter complex, so much easier to deal with. Inner critic, so much easier to deal with. I'm not saying they went away overnight, and they still come up sometimes. But when my inner critic comes a knocking, and it still does, and starts to tell me, oh, you haven't made it yet, you're not making your income goals yet, and this and this and this, I can go, yes, inner critic, you're right. I'm not making my income goals yet. I hear you. But when I sit down with a client, their life changes. I know that. I've seen it time and time again. So thank you for sharing, but I'm going to keep doing my expertise, and the money is coming. And the money is coming. I'm just not quite where I want to be yet. So the money will come. It's okay. And then I can literally feel my inner critic like, damn it. Because he doesn't have any more rocks to throw at me.
Yeah, that's well, it's interesting that you still have to deal with it yourself. I mean, you're the expert in the field, but I guess none of us is safe from it, right? From the doubt, from the inner critic. It always comes out. But then I find that there's a fine line that when you're ready to step up and when not. So how do you determine that? When this energetic alignment that you're talking about, how do you get attuned to it?
That's a great question. I didn't expect that one. Let me make sure I'm giving you a real answer and not just an answer because I'm on a Facebook Live. So 1 second. Yeah, so I found in my practice and with my personal practice and in my professional practice that it's a little bit like, there's this analogy that I use. So imagine you've got a kitchen and you used to love the kitchen and you don't love the kitchen anymore. And so you think, I need to remodel my kitchen. And then I come in and I say, whoa, wait, hold on. Maybe you don't need to remodel the kitchen. Let's start by doing the dishes. And you go, oh yeah. And let's scrub down the counters and let's scrub down the walls. And we do a cleaning. We clear the space. We clear the stuff that's just right in your face. And then we can step back and say, do you still want to remodel the kitchen? And most people say, oh, actually, no, I love my kitchen. Maybe I'll just get some plants or maybe I'll repaint that wall. And most people don't want to remodel their kitchen. So that's the work that I do with people is sitting with them to identify the beliefs that are currently kicking their butts, that have them be procrastinating or stuck in self-doubt. And once they do that, then they'll say, oh, yep, I'm going to leave my husband. I don't do a lot of, I don't do much relationship work, but sometimes, that would be an example. I never give advice on stay in the relationship, leave the relationship, stay in the business, leave the business, but I help them clear the beliefs that are in the way. So once you do all that, once you do the dishes and scrub the counters, then to your question, how do you know when it's time to leap or not? Then you'll know. You'll stand back and you go, oh, it's time. It'll be like it will be like in the movies when you go, oh, this is time. like the Jedi Masters, and they just go, oh, it's my time. And we're all watching going, how do they do that? How do they know? This is how you know. Once you've cleared the crap that's in the way, it's like most people, I don't know if you've seen that photo of the little fishbowl and the big fishbowl. And they're trying to jump from the little fishbowl into the big fishbowl. They're trying to level up. They're trying to go big time. But I think that that's wrong. I think that trying to go from a half empty fish tank and trying to leap all that way, it might work, maybe. But if instead you just fill that first fishbowl, so it's full, and then you've got this other big fishbowl that's also full, jumping from here to here, not so hard. You'll probably make it. So it's the same thing. So when I did my summit, it was last month. It was the 100 Women of Vision Masterclass series. And 6 months before that, I was walking in the woods talking to God. Now, everyone here has different backgrounds and faiths and spiritualities. That's great. For me, I say God. So I was walking in the woods talking to God, and I said, God, I really want to sign some new clients. I'm going to put on these free sessions that I used to do. I'm going to do 100 free sessions to sign some new clients. And that was the night before. So the next morning I was walking in the woods on this path that I made close to my house. And I said, okay, God, Spirit, what's next? Because I'm a bit, I don't really know what's next. I was open. I was saying, it wasn't fully on my knees spiritually, but I was saying, I'm kind of, I don't know what to do. So you tell me what to do. And God said, make it a vision. And I said, no. And God said, no, make it a vision. Like, this is going to be a thing. This is going to be a project. This is going to be a vision. It's going to become something. So you're not just doing 100 free sessions, make it a project, make it a summit, make it something. And I literally said, no, I don't want to. And it went from there. And then the 100 Women of Vision Summit happened last month. And then we just had our first monthly new moon mastermind because it came from that energetic alignment, from being available and listening for that moment of, oh, it's time to go. So that's a very long answer to your question. I hope that I answered it properly.
You did. You absolutely did. And there's no simple answer to a question like that. And I'm glad you took the time to actually unfold it, because it's something that, as you say correctly, sometimes hard to distinguish. When are you prepared for the leap? And I like that you make this analogy that you have to actually clear the space And then it becomes obvious where you go, or whether you need to change it completely, or whether you need to do some tweaks to make sure it's actually in alignment with yourself. And I think that's crucial with whatever we do. Either we do a summit, or signing new clients, or creating a new package. It has to be filled within the alignment. I mean, you call it energetic alignment, and whatever you call it, I think it's important that even though you have to push yourself outside the boundary, not staying too much in the comfort zone, so always working, improving yourself, it still has to feel authentic to you. Would you use that word?
Yeah. Yeah. Very much.
Yeah. So coming to the close of our life, I don't want to, I mean, I could talk about this forever. It's really, really interesting. But what would you say is the secret to a success? Is that clearing the beliefs? Is that the secret to success for an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think so. And what I just kind of laid out, I think that's been my secret to success, is identifying where am I out of alignment, where am I lying to myself, where there was we started to talk about it just before we hit record, and I made a note to talk about a client that signed up, from a podcast that I was on. And this is a perfect example of what I think the secret to success is for entrepreneurs, because I think it's twofold. I think it's the planning, getting a great coach, a business coach, a mentor, creating your sales funnel, have a great website, your messaging, your marketing has to be on point. You've got to be not afraid to have a sales conversation. Those are all really important. I'm not downplaying that. But the part that most entrepreneurs forget, which is why I think it's so crucial and such a key and the secret, in my opinion, is this next piece of belief clearing, because she was a successful business owner. And she typed in to say, oh, I'm loving this about, clearing visibility blocks and imposter complex and everything. My fear is that if I make too much money, people will judge me. That's what she typed in. And so I read that energetically, and I was really in the zone that day. So just from the text, I read into it energetically, and I said, Dawn, would it be okay if I gave you a different suggestion of something that I see coming up? And she wrote back to say, yes, it would. So I didn't see her face. I didn't even know her full name. All I had was Dawn and the thing that she wrote. And she wrote back and she said, yes. So I said, well, what's coming up energetically is it's not the fear that you'll have too much money and you'll be judged. It's the fear that you'll have so much money that you won't know what to do with it. And people will judge you for that you'd be so overly abundant that you'd have so much money you wouldn't even know what to do with it. And it's that is holding you back. And she wrote back to say, holy crap. And then a few days later, she signed up as a client, and she was that first person to sign up with that package that I mentioned. And she's been a client ever since. So I think that's the secret, is having someone who can call you on your lies, where you lying to yourself. Because if you're trying to do something and it's not working, it's because you're lying to yourself. There's somewhere that you're out of alignment. You're out of energetic alignment. So I think that's the secret.
Wow. Yeah, well, I think that's a very good place for us to finish our conversation. I think it's amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. I think it's such an important issue. I mean, I've come also myself to realize that all these doubts, the mindsets, it's an inevitable part that we all encounter, whichever stage you are in business, whether we're just starting out, whether we're close to influencer status, if some of us will be one day. I think there's always the necessity to clear self-doubt, to make sure that we're in alignment, to make sure that we're moving forward. So thank you so much for sharing. I think it's great that you say that you keep on working with this client, because it's work that never ends, I think. So whatever we step up, we have to do it again and again and again. We have to clear the beliefs, we have to clear the plateau, and we have to start afresh with our new set of goals, with the new level that we have reached, and we have to be prepared for that level.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Is it okay if I share with people where they can?
Yes, exactly. I was just about to ask you to tell us.
I know we're at time. I know we're at time, and I know I can talk a lot because this is my jam. I love this stuff, so I've probably put us over time. But so there's a webinar that's coming up on Thursday, if anyone sees this before then. But that same page is going to have the webinar ongoing, as I do one every month. So it's myspiritualclarity.com/procrastination. So So it's pretty simple. And I'll put that in
I'll put it in
notes.
the comment. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. So it's a 90-minute webinar. We go into the 8 pillars. And then of course, at the end, there's going to be an offer for, a paid program. Everyone can know that that's coming, but it's a little bit different because I'm only going to share my story for a few minutes, and then we're going to spend really 95% of the webinar on the actual concepts, doing actual clearing, and there'll be time for 1 or 2 lucky people to be on the hot seat to actually do live belief clearing with me. So I say lucky, but it's also unlucky because then you'll see where you're full of crap and where you're lying to yourself, and that can sometimes be uncomfortable, but it is very effective in helping you move forward with your business and your summit. So yeah, that's where they can find out more.
And you hang out on Facebook and anywhere else? LinkedIn, Instagram?
I'm just getting into LinkedIn. So I just updated my profile from what it was 10 years ago. So not the best place. Facebook, I've been living on. I have tons of content. There's a Facebook group called Procrastination to Profits. Okay. So on the same theme of procrastination. So perfect for anyone in this group that has a business and is trying to run a summit. So Procrastination to Profits Facebook group. And then my personal profile, I do a lot of lives. And yeah, I'm on there a lot.
Wonderful. Well, we'll share it all in the notes, in the comments, so that for those of you who want to follow up with Wil can do that easily. Well, thank you so much again for being here, for sharing. And you hang out in the group. So if anybody has a comment or a question, please tag Wil here, and or just jump into his group and ask him there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, Alexandra. I really appreciate it. This group has been great so far. It's been, the connections I've already made have been fantastic, and I look forward to more because it's a lot of fun being on summits. It's a lot of fun putting them on. I don't know if I'll ever put on such a big one again. It's exhausting. So kudos to anyone who's doing that right now. It is exhausting. But yeah, it's a great group and a great idea.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye. Okay, cool. Well,